Hello and welcome back to the SuperCoach Corner podcast for another round review as round two closes. I'm Tyson, joined alongside me as always is Darcy. Darcy, how did you see round two and how did your SuperCoach side perform?
Another week in the books, Tice. No, it was good. It was good. I think the team in general was a bit of an improve from last week, which is nice. But just when we thought there was a bit of carnage in round one and the days leading up to round two, there was even more that hit us over the weekend. So, yeah, a few more roadblocks to get past this week, I guess, and a lot more to discuss with trades to go in. But that was good. Good to have footy back.
Yeah, it's always good to have a bit of footy, and obviously we're in round two now, so we're really hitting the pointy. Oh, I guess the start of the season's really underway. So, it was the first bye round, which is always frustrating as a super coach player. But we might have navigated it all right. But there's a bit of injury news to come out, so we'll delve into all of that in this episode. So make sure you stay tuned. Uh, Firstly, the socials, get on them. Facebook, Instagram. We posted a lot of the injury news as it happened, as we we're watching the game. So you can be the first to know following our page. So make sure you jump along on there. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. It shows that you love the content. But yeah, let's get stuck into the round. And obviously the first buy round of the first three early buys. So we've got four teams coming back next week, and we've got four going on the buy next week as well. So yeah, like it's best 18 scoring. It's always lower scores and it's a bit more congested in terms of the scoring front. You might have the odd few teams that get that really high ceiling score because they managed to miss all the carnage. But it's just a vital week to get right, being round two of the season, right before price changes, isn't it?
Yeah, huge week. It's just been the correction week basically in Supercoach for the since it was started. So this is the week we need to get right. Make sure you get all the right rookies. So we'll touch on that today, and we'll also get some content out during the week just to make sure that everyone is prioritizing the right guys to bring into their side. And if you're ever going to use a boost, this is probably the week to do it, especially with the injury carnage that we've had. So we'll be touching on that today and throughout the week. Like you mentioned, Tice, it is buy round, so there's a few teams had the buy this week. So I think it was Collingwood, Brisbane, Carlton, and Geelong will be coming back next week, which is huge if you wanted to target one of those players coming off the buy. And then heading into round three, we've got the Hawks, the Swans, the Dogs, and the Suns, or the buy next week. So pretty relevant buy round with the Dogs, Swans, and Suns especially. Three big super coach teams. But what about the week that just gone, Tice? Before we look ahead, let's look at the week, round two, that's just finished. Literally, we clicked record as the game finished, North Melbourne West Coast game. Let's talk about your trade. So I know you were tossing and turning for a long time. What did you end up with and why did you go there?
Yeah, so I ended up deciding not to trade in going into the start of the round before we saw the final teams on Sunday. And if I was going to trade, the only rookie I would have been sold on would have been Murdoch. And the fact that it's just the fact that I don't like the role that he has, but the fact he did it so well to score 110, he's just not going to get dropped or anything like that. So I don't think you get down to the 30 and 40 scoring as we saw today as well. So yeah, he was probably the only one I was safe to go early on. I decided to go against that until Josh Lindsay got dropped, and that was a big decision. I didn't think he did anything wrong to deserve to get dropped, just from an AFL point of view, but from the Supercoach point of view, it was massive. I then had to. I couldn't go from Lindsay to Murdoch because I didn't have Grill in my midfield. I didn't have any DPP to move around to do that. And I was a bit iffy on holding Hayden Young with all his injury history, all the soft tissues that he has, and the weird wording that they had around it. So I was pretty set on, like, if I had to, I would move on Hayden Young. Now I know that next week I was be looking, or this week I'd be looking to get Houston, and I was sold on Murdoch as well. So I was going to be grabbing Murdoch. So I then did. I then punted Hayden Young and Josh Lindsay, who were both not playing, for two guys, or one wasn't playing, in Houston, going early on Houston, even though he was on the bye. and Murdoch, which then means it frees me up for another 3 trades this week, because this week is the most vital week to get right. So, bit of a back and forth. We had a lot of discussion around it. How do you feel I have navigated my trades?
Yeah, I think it was perfect. I think you had so many things. I know you want to get Dacos as well. Like, you didn't start Dacos. So you had heaps of things you wanted to do this week. And when you made the trades, like, Cook was still sort of in the air. Had a perfect round 1. Like, is he going to be a must-have going into round 3? So you just got to look forward and think, like, is there a chance I'm going to need more than 3 trades next week, which is what you did. And it sort of was, yeah, look, there's a chance I'm going to want 4 and I can't make 4. So why not go early on a guy that I'm confident in, or 2 guys I'm confident in? Because, like, your opinion on Dan Houston couldn't have changed from last week to this week, unless, you watched training footage and you weren't happy, which wouldn't have happened. So if you were set on getting Dan Houston this week, there was no harm in going last week. So no, I loved it. I sort of fought for it for you. So I think it was the right move in the end. I did similarly. I started Gibkiss ahead of Jack Carroll, so I had Grill in my midfield. So I just went Gibkiss to Murdoch. I held Hayden Young in the end. Who knows? We'll see how that ends up. If he even makes my team next week. I wanted to wait until I got more news. So yeah, it was just the one trade for myself.
You didn't punt Lindsay?
Nah. I might this week. I probably won't in the end. I didn't have anyone to punt him to. So I wasn't sold on anyone. So I thought I'd just wait. And I thought West Coast would be so shit that he'd get a recall soon anyway. And now West Coast have gone and won this afternoon. So I don't know.
It always hurts. It hurts when the calls don't come off as you want them to. But well, like, a couple of other things is that, for me, I hate having a dead rookie early. I am a pretty big caveat for maximizing the cash generation really early in the season, because then it sets you up for the rest of the year. So I just didn't want that guy. Even if Lindsay comes back next week, he's a week behind all the other cash generators as well. So I just didn't like that, and we don't know for certain if he does come back. So yes, he still looked all right, but he's now a downgrade option for me when he does come back into the side as well. So I could also bank that one away. And the fact that we had a lot of back and forth on Houston. So Houston's probably a big talking point this week as well. In terms of trades, a lot of people will target him. But we had a bit of back and forth. I was trying to see both sides of it. For him to be a good cash generation pick, I know that people are picking him to be a premium. But I was trying to look at it at the view as, okay, if he's not going to be that top 8 defender, I don't know if I want him. But then the fact that he was only 430k, I could then, worst case, he makes money for me. Even if it's 70k, I then have good scores on field and no more buys from the players, and the fact that he provides me that great scoring. And then he needs to score about 104, I think it was, to make 100k, to make that 100k that you want from your cash generators. So then I said, I'm not sure if he's going to get that. He might sit around the 100 mark. But then you raised a really good point. Looking back at last year, 105 was a top 6 defender in 2025. And if he's going to be close enough to that, then it's just another big tick for me, in the fact that he'd probably be a top 10 of last year. So, or top 12. So I'm happy to spend 430k on a guy that is top 12 to 15 defender at worst, from what I saw.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think he's definitely in my trade plans this week, and depending on how the injury news sort of unfolds, but it's not looking good early. But no, I think you're right. Grab some cash. He'll make quick cash for us and provide really good scores on field whilst doing so. So I think he'll be in a lot of people's trade plans this week, you'd assume. But I talked about Tyson. I mentioned a couple of times the injuries that come out of the weekend. A couple of big ones. We'll start with today. Connor Rosie. It looks to be a high-grade hamstring tendon injury. A couple of months on the sidelines from all reports. I mean, obviously they haven't had scans, but it's not looking good. He didn't seem very optimistic about it in his post-match interview either. I think it's fair to say anything like 3-4 weeks plus we're trading, which it looks to be that way.
Yeah, yeah. The 2 weeks you could be a caveat to hold, but if it's 3 plus, you've got to then move him on. Yeah, it's just too much points to leave on the table.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the good thing about these two injuries as well is they are like super high owned players. The next guy that I'm talking about is Christian Petrarca, who's in 76% of teams, which is a huge number. I don't have Connor Rosie is in 67%. So like it hurts and it's hard, but everyone's facing the same issues this week basically. So so you could. Christian Petrarca's the other one. The news came out today, so he had a hamstring injury. Started the game well yesterday, but went down and started the third quarter, I believe, and then news today is looking like a month on the sideline. So let's say it is a month. It's the 1 week bye and then 3 more games. I think it's a trade on this one as well. That's the way I'm leaning.
Yeah, the only thing I had to maybe hold it was that 3 week was the fact that it's bye rounds and he's guaranteed to be a top six forward. Whereas, the forward line's pretty thin, but if you're missing a month, that's too much time to miss out. Too much money to have burning on your bench, and you just need to do it sideways trade, and then maybe have to get him back. The caveat to that as well, on the positive side, is the fact that Matt Rowell will be back around the same time as well, so we can probably see them together and see how that affects Petrarca's game. So we know that he's been so dominant, but Matt Rowell's then got to come into that midfield and might steal some ball off him. So I don't, from a positive twist on it, I don't mind that.
Yeah, I'm happy to get rid of him. I think they've had such an easy start to the year as well. It'll be good. When he comes back to the injury, they'll probably ease him back into it. Raul in the team, I just want to see how it works with Raul, how it works against a more competitive opposition as well. So I'm pretty happy to get rid of him. I don't need to hold him, is what I'm pretty much trying to say. But we'll go into the week that was, Ty. So, like I said, the game's just finished. What did you end up scoring? At the moment, there's probably a little bit of scaling to come in the last game, but at the moment, what's it sitting at?
Yeah, it's currently sitting at 1,798. So not a great score from what I can see going around, but obviously being a bye round, I'm not too far behind. I just had a few underperforming premiums, whereas a few people had some, overperforming ones. So yeah, that was kind of my big downfall. What about you?
I scored 1,800 on the dot. So at the moment, 2 points ahead. We did have a match up against each other in a cash league as well. So fingers crossed there's no last minute scaling there. So I'll hopefully take the win, which would take us to 1-1 this year. You beat me last week. I'll beat this week. So even up the ledger. It was always a pretty bad bye week for me. I had Nick Dacos and Lockie Neal. I wasn't expecting heaps, so I'm pretty happy with the outcome to crack over the 1,800. What about a champ, Tice? Who headlined your big dogs this week?
Look, I can't go past Zach Butters. He's probably the only one that. Well, he is the only one that scored 120 plus for me. Oh, sorry, Harry Sheasel as well. But like being a captain score and wearing that captain armband for me, dropping 135 was just huge for me and actually really saved my week from a few others. So he was probably the big champ for me. What about your champ?
I'm going to go Lockie Ash again. Back-to-back champs for him, 130. I kind of moved heaven and earth to bring him into my side before round one, and he's repaid me in full. He's been huge the first 2 weeks, and just one of those guys that's incredible to have in your team. Like watching him, he runs so hard, and I love watching him play. So he's been huge. That sort of sums up our general synopsis from the week that's been and our teams on the weekend. We'll jump into the games, Tice, and review them game by game. So we'll start all the way back on Thursday night with the Hawks and the Swans, where the Hawks got the better of the undermanned Swans in the end after a couple of injuries, really hindered their midfield. And Hawks were pretty much Hawks in terms of SuperCoach output. They don't have a huge amount of top-end talent, and there's not really a lot of relevancy when it comes to SuperCoach for Hawks. Dylan Moore's got 104. He's put together a good start to the year. Jai Newcomb, 103. Again, good player. Hopefully he can build on that a little bit. Sicily, the 90. So again, building on that good start to the year. Not the big score that he has done early on, but you take that. And if you are an owner, you're looking there. I don't think there's anything to put you out of him. Tyson, next one's a really interesting one, especially with the carnage we've had this week. Ned Reeves coming to the side last week after getting overlooked in round 0, scored 104 in round 1 and then 85 on the weekend. He's a 242k ruck only. He pretty much, I think he's just less than 50% of the ruck contest. I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, but is he an option now in terms of someone who you could maybe have the flex and make you money?
It hamstrings you a bit in terms of the fact he's only ruck eligible. He's had just over 45, I think it was 47% ruck contests in the game, and the week before I think he had 30%. I don't have that number in front of me, but he looks to be still that second ruck. I just feel like there's just going to be another week where, he might have that what he had in the first game that he played of like that 30-35% ruck contest, and then he just doesn't score because he's coming up against a really really good ruckman. He's usually up against the second ruckman, and when he was up against Grundy, he was doing well, but yeah, I can't back it in. I don't think.
Fair. I am a little bit on the fence. I don't think I will. I don't think I can trust it, but I don't hate it either. Like he only had 7 touches, 21 hitouts, 13 of them to advantage. So like he is dominant in the ruck contest. Like he feeds his midfielders, which is really favoured in Supercoach, and not many ruckmen can do it like he does. He does it at a really high percentage, which I think really brings up his floor. Like he doesn't need heaps of the ball. He doesn't need heaps of ruck contests to score an 80, which is nice. And then look, Meeks had back-to-back pretty poor weeks. Is there a chance that that ruck split can switch, and then he's taking even more ruck contests, getting more hitouts to advantage, and then that score can start to boost a little bit. I think there's upside there, but there's downside as well. Like again, not many touches is also like a bit of a red flag. Like if he's not rucking well, or he's coming up against a good ruckman. Not that Grundy's not, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's risky, but I do see the upside.
Yeah, but if you add in a few more touches in that game, like even just another 3 or 4, he's got a ton, and that's huge at 250k. So I think that he is more of an option than we think, but it's just hard to fit him in your side. You're not dropping McAndrew from on field. Like if McAndrew's in your flex, you're not putting McAndrew at R3 just to have Reeves on field. They're going to score pretty similar. Like McAndrew's the number 1 ruck. So I'm not sure that people are going to fit Reeves on their side. If they have McAndrew at R2, you could put Reeves at 3, but then how long are you going to hold him? You're then a bit hamstrung, flexibility wise with the rest of your side, especially while we're doing a lot of trades at the start of the year. I just find it hard to fit a structure.
Yeah, it is. It's an awkward price, an awkward position. It is really hard to get. One plus side, like we got another week to think about it. Like he's got the bye this week, so don't need to rush into it. So have a think, see what happens next week. If there's McAndrew goes down or gets recalled the week after, maybe there's an option there to switch him to Reeves. But I think there's definitely upside that we can sit on for a week and hopefully see if we can get some more information there. And then to finish off the Hawks, Connor McDonald scored 76. A similar role for the start of the year, but did not huge output there. Is it someone that you'd be interested in at all, Tice, or what are you thinking with Connor McDonald?
I like it. I think he started the year really well, but the role dropped a bit on the weekend. Only had the 4 CBAs, so it's probably one that might save us in the fact that we didn't jump on him. If you did, I don't think you're too worried because of his current price at 380k. Well, he's going to go up. We don't have the final prices just yet, but yeah, I think it's a decent miss for now. And keep an eye on if that role comes back, we can then jump on him, and if we see him as a top 8 forward. So that's probably the only thing on McDonald. Let's move to the Sydney side. Grundy dropped to 135. Just really hammered home what we think of him as a genuine top ruck. So he was good. Callum Mills, 107. Had no midfield time in this one, which a bit surprising in my eyes. I thought with Goulden and Heaney going down, he was going to jump into the midfield. But no, he was all at the half back and took 6 kick-ins. Looked really good and clean. So he dropped 107 for Sydney. Might be an option at some point. Yeah. So and then Chad dropped a 90. We're just not seeing enough just yet to pick him as a SuperCoach option. Nick Blakey at 78. A lot of people were pretty hot on him. We released that with Mills, he is just a genuine premium, top-end premium in the side. But maybe with the likes of Goulden and Heaney out, it hurts him a little bit. So yeah, he only dropped to 78. Justin McInerney dropped to 77. Had 70% CBAs. That is the one who really benefited from Goulden and Heaney going down. If this role continues forward eligible, do you see him being a pick in our sides?
Yeah, I do. I like it. It seems like the guy who's going to provide that leg speed in replace of Goulden in the midfield. It's a huge midfield numbers at 70%. Obviously 77 is not great, but they got beaten pretty comprehensively in the end by Hawthorn. So, and I don't expect that to happen often, especially with the return of Heaney. So if he keeps that role, he had, I think it was 5 clangers or 4 clangers in the end. 63% disposal efficiency, gave away a couple free. So there's reasons for the 77. Still had 24 touches. Had 3 clearances. So I think there's heaps of upside there. The price isn't great. I think he's just less than 500k. So before the price rise. So yeah, one that I'm definitely keeping an eye on, and I'd love to watch if he's getting that full midfield time.
Yeah, he should be about that. Yeah, 490k, 495k range once SuperCoach opens up, and it's one that you don't have to jump on because of that price. You can afford to wait and see if and let the forwards play out. Maybe when DPP comes in, we get a few more forwards eligible, and we don't have to jump on a player like McInerney. But if this role persists and Sydney go back to their winning ways again when Heaney comes back into this side, because I see him as a big, influence on this side, then yeah, McInerney's an option. But just we can afford to wait on that one. Angus Sheldrick is one I thought was going to get a lot more CBAs and one I was paying attention to pretty heavily in this game, but only had the 33%. So he's probably still a miss and on the outer for Sydney in that midfield rotation. Josh Sarong, 48. Look, it's not the ideal scores for cash generation, but I don't think he did anything too wrong. He had 18 disposals, maybe push it a little bit, but I don't see him getting dropped from the side at this point. So he can sit on your bench for a little bit longer. Malcolm Broses dropped to 43. Could be a bit frustrating, but the up and down scores are going to happen with the with the small forwards. And then Charlie Curnow to only get a 33. He has been a SuperCoach option in the past, but if this is going to really bring down his price and then Sydney get on a tear, it could be one that we look at some point. But yeah, just keep an eye out on that Charlie Curnow price. Unless you've got anything else to add in this game, we can move to the next.
No, nothing there. I think that sort of sums up that game. We'll jump to Friday nights with the Crows and the Dogs, and start from the Crows side of things. Good game of footy. Headlined again the Crows by Josh Worrell, who just seems to be becoming more and more SuperCoach relevant with no Mark Keane on that side, getting a lot more ball, taking his intercepts and using his foot skills as well. So 25 touches, scored 123. Is it just less? I mean, I'll get his price up now, Taz. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but he's less than 500k. He is a pod. Are you interested there at all with Josh Worrell?
There's a lot more talk around him now over the past week, and people started to look at him after that round 1 score. And then I think the fact that he's dropped 123, there's a lot more SuperCoach talk about Josh Worrell being an option. With Mark Keane going down, he gets a lot more of the kick-ins. He had 3 on the weekend, which is nice. It bumps up his numbers. And he was pretty good last year. He averaged 90 across the whole year. I only see it improving if the fact he's getting kick-ins, no Mark Keane, and yeah, I quite like the pick. if I'm picking a defender, I want the rebounding defender, not the sort of key back. I don't see him as a full intercept guy. Um, but I'm just not set on the role that he has. But he just looks so good on the eye test.
Yeah, he does sort of play that third tall. They've got Jordan Butts and Nick Murray down there who tend to take the more dangerous big guys. And then he'll take the third if needed, or he can sort of drop off a little bit and provide an attacking threat. So at times he can get a really good role. He showed, look, he can peel off 123 against probably the best forward line in the comp or up there, like the best tall forward duo. So there's definitely upside, and I like it. I'm not someone that I'm super confident in. I don't think I'll be going there, but I can see a world in which that potentially bites me in the ass, and he keeps peeling off these big scores, and yeah, one we'll definitely keep an eye on in the coming weeks. I just want to see a little bit more from him. Nick Murray, Ty, speaking of 109, I never thought I'd be mentioning Nick Murray's name as an actual option in Supercoach, but you wrote him down. I thought, why is Tyson writing his name down? But 250k or 259k, scored 110 after a 70 in round one. It is an awkward price, similar to Reeves, but the break even will be low after a big score.
Look, yeah, the break even's going to be very, very low. Like if he pulls out some 70s, I'm just quickly running some numbers here, and he got that 110. He's going to have that break even with the 110. I think it's going to be around -9 by the looks of it. And then with a couple of 70s, he shoots up 90k. That's pretty appealing to me. Sorry, just over 80k. But is he going to get those 70s? We haven't seen that in the past from Nick Murray. I don't know how much we can take out of this game on Murray, Worrell, and Butts. They all scored 100s, and that's all their key defending stocks. Does that just mean that the Bulldogs were just bombing it in and they could just peel off and get intercept marks the whole time? I'm not sure. Like, yes, we shouldn't be sitting on Nick Murray that much, but 260k is really nice. I don't think anyone's going there, but I think it's just take it with a grain of salt in terms of you'll see some inflated scores from time to time from random players. It doesn't mean that they're options. You just got to see the role and maybe how the game is played. Maybe these are ones. Maybe the Dogs become one where intercept defenders are really good scoring against them. I don't know. This is something that we can just probably take moving forward more than Nick Murray as an option.
Yeah, no, I like that. Moving on from the Adelaide, or moving on with the Adelaide Crows, Sam Berry's got 107, shown last year that he can peel off some good games here and there. So good to see that from him. Jordan Dawson with 103, 25 touches, kicked a nice goal. I just sort of want to wait for him to build into the season a little bit more. He's sort of one of those guys that you can pick up for a pretty nice price at some point. So we'll wait for that, and then we can snap him up. Chase Jones, after being in most of our teams throughout the preseason, finally got his recall late as Hugh Bond went down with illness an hour before the game started. He scored 86, looked really good, played off half back, took a couple of kick-ins. The role was perfect. He played really well. I wouldn't be jumping on him early, but just keep an eye on Chase Jones because he looked really good, and 86 in the system's super nice as well. And then, yeah, Archie as well. I think he's out for 6 weeks without hamstring injury. So provides a bit more job security for the likes of him and Braden Cook, who we'll get to in a second. Thilthorpe scored 81, just the 2 goals, sort of expecting more against the Doggies backline, but he has got a pretty high floor for a key forward. So if you're an owner, you wouldn't be too upset with that. McAndrew, also 81. That's exactly what we want from him. So that's good scoring. Rankin scored 77. I just had like the 32% CBA. So wait for him to warm up into the season. And then if that midfield time pushes up, we could look there, but I wouldn't be looking there now. Cook, as I mentioned before, scored 62. The Archie injury helps. We talked about it in the pod last week, Tice, that 95 was the genuine ceiling score from him, and don't be expecting that. I think this shows that he's not necessarily a must-have, but I still think he's a good option. I mean, 95 is 62. Got the DPP. Yeah, he's a little bit more expensive than other rookies, but I like that. I think the DPP sort of outweighs that when we are sort of lacking that a little bit this year up until round 6. So I still like it, but yeah, like I said, I don't think he's a must-have.
Yeah, he's definitely a good option. 13 disposals, but was clean with it. And yeah, that DPP is huge. If you need a little bit of space in that forward line, or you want a bit of flexibility in your midfield bench, I don't hate going Cook pick over some other guys. Not Murdoch, obviously, but a few other rookies that are now getting floated about. So yeah, I quite like it. Yes, you mentioned Archie's injury. He probably doesn't directly, make their job security a lot better. But it's the fact that they're not the last two picked in the side now. Whoever's coming in for Archie is probably going to be the last picked, provided they don't have a big inclusion coming back in that I've forgotten about. But yeah, that's just the way I see it for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he did enough in that round one game as well to at least get another good crack at it. Malera scored 61 ties. I know a few people were really hot on this pick after his round one score of 140. The role's still there. He's still playing that halfback role and that distributor there. He had 19 touches, 12 of them being kicks. His kickouts dropped a lot, so he had 7 last week against the Pies, only the 2 this week. I wouldn't be jumping on him now. I think Houston's a better pick at a very similar price. So, yeah, I'm not super sold on Malera. I think that's sort of that's mainly his flaw, but yeah, I don't think I'll be expecting too many 140s. And then Rochelle scored 50, which is the 35% CBA. So I think that, again, I think that sort of puts a line through him for me. I know a lot of people are looking there and wanting him in their side. I know they lost and they're not going to lose heaps, but yeah, I'm not sold on Rochelle. Unless there's anything else from the Adelaide side of things, Tyson, we jump across the doggies.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, yeah, the Rochelle and Rankin one, you can wait on both. I just don't know how they're probably just going to use them how they did in this game. That 30 to 40% CBAs sort of role. Rankin's probably just a better player and is more damaging up forward than Rochelle is. So, in terms of a SuperCoach output, which we have seen in the past. So, that's probably why we're going to lean Rankin over Rochelle. But yes, let's move to the dog side. And Big Bad Bont is just going to keep continuing, keep on keeping on with 141. That was just monster score, monster game, 30 disposals and a goal. It's just the same thing every week. When you don't have Bont, you just hate SuperCoach. A lot of people had the VC on him as well, so that's a nice, easy one to lock away early. We're both non-owners. Das, are you looking to get him this week?
I think I will. Even though he's got the buy, I still think I'll have to. I don't know, I might wait a week, but I still think he's definitely in my plans either this week or next. It's not often you have two like high-end expensive premiums go down with an injury in the same week. So, if I make 3 trades this week, I'll have over like 1.1, 1.2 mil to spend. And if you're not getting Bont, then when are you getting Bont? So I think a lot of people might be in the same boat that if you're looking for a top dog, I know he's expensive. I know he's over 700k and like it's a lot to spend for a guy, but I think not owning him will hurt a little bit more. So that's where I'm leaning at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it hurts not owning him.
Yeah, he'll go up about 6k, something around that, 5 or 6k this round, but then have a low break even, probably around that 100 mark because that 113 drop out and his rolling scores are 160 and 141.
I love how 113 is classified as like a low score dropping out of your system for Bond. So
it's just ridiculous. Yeah. This guy's a machine. So yeah, look, you might have to jump on him right after that buy as well. You need to save a lot of money to get him in. He's over that 700k. So, like you said, yes, there's 2 premiums that go out. You have a big war chest to spend. Joel Frazier, 121. Only had the 19% CBAs. It was just that good game up forward. Kicked a lot of good goals early. And filled up stat sheet with 24 disposals as well. But yeah, the role isn't amazing from what we're seeing. It's not what we would have bought Frazier for just yet. Tim English got 114, just continuing his ways as being a top ruck. Libba got 105. Yeah, look, if you somehow went there as a pod, yeah, you'd be happy with that. But 55% CBA, so he's a bit more in the midfield than that half back. Ed Richards, 94, still had that role as the main on baller, had the most CBAs for the Dogs, but only dropping to 94, so owners are a little bit annoyed at that. Matt Kennedy had a 93. 61% CBAs. He's getting a lot more CBAs than he did last year, when last year he was getting 40 to 50. This year he's up in that 60 range, which is nice to see, and could be a sneaky option. I'm not sure we're buying him at just over 500k though. Lucky Jack's just been a great scorer for us, to have on field, a safe on field play with that role that he's got for the Dogs, dropping a 70. He's going to provide us some really nice cash generation there. Connor Butterick was a very popular option at the start of the year that a lot of teams did start with because of his forward eligibility and the halfback role. Only dropped to 67 and only had 2 out of the 10 kick-ins. A few alarm bells going off.
A few, but I still think he's a long hold for me. He just went missing in the last quarter when the game was on the line, which isn't great, but it's at least there's a reason for it. He had 17 in the first quarter, 26 in the second, 20 in the third, then just the 4 SuperCoach points in the last quarter. So couldn't get his hands on the footy when the game was on the line, which is when SuperCoach really rewards you. So yeah, there's reasons for it. He still had 21 touches, so the role's there, and he's using the footy really, really well. Like, I think he provides a lot for the Dogs, so I don't think there's any issues there. I think the 67 didn't reflect the way that he played. I'm still happy to hold for the long term, and hope that he can turn those 67s into 80s, 85s, and we can have him ticking along. Selwood, Ty scored 61, was on the bubble as he played in round 0 as well. So he's been a decent little cash generator for people who did start him. Wouldn't be trusting him with on-field options, but a nice little bench warmer for everyone. Sam Darcy scored 57, one we've touched on in the preseason a lot about. We do see him as a top liner, but hopefully we get a couple of these games, get his price down, and then when his form picks back up, we can get him for a nice price. So keep an eye on Sam Darcy. And then Dale scored 56, which is just not very Bailey Dale-like. Had the 8 kick-ins as well, so there was no issues there. He just couldn't capitalise on his touches, had 20 touches. Used it at 80% as well, so there wasn't huge issues. It just was mostly uncontested and didn't do heaps with it. So that sums up that game, Tice. We'll move across to Saturday and start with the Tigers and the Suns. And there's a bit of news out of this one, and your boys are getting beaten, unfortunately, again. But we'll start with them. And look, as always, from a premium side of things, there's not much to talk about. Jaden Short is doing it all 1 year too late. So 104 again after another big ton last week. Unfortunately, but I would not be looking there just because he has hurt me too many times. Sammy Lawler, Ty, scored 74, 17 touches, kicked a nice goal. What do you think? Like, I know you're a Richmond supporter. I don't think that you play footy, so you didn't get to catch most of the game, but he got hurt a lot by that Tom Lynch injury. Lynch went down pretty early. I think it was in the second quarter or maybe the start, around half time. And they needed Lawler to go forward and be that deep forward. So that limited his midfield time, which impacted his score. I don't hate the 74s. He's still going to make cash for us, but we are sort of hoping for a little bit more.
Yeah, we are. And it sort of seemed that when Tom Lynch went down, he then had to sit more forward. So as you can see here, in the second quarter, he had 33% CBAs, attending 4 centre bounces, which was the role we wanted. He only attended 1 in the first quarter, which was a little bit of a red flag. But yeah, Tom Lynch went down early. So with Tom Lynch going down, they saw Lawler being good enough to contest the footy as a contested marker. So that's why he might have been a little bit of a makeshift option for us up forward. We know he can be damaging up forward as well. But the fact that his price is, 290k, he definitely doesn't need to score too amazingly to provide you some cash. And the fact that we have a lot more other issues going into this week, he's probably a nice little hold for us, producing some 75 to 80s. And we know his ceiling scores, which showed us last year when he dropped over that 100 against the eventual premiers last year. So it's always good to see, but the fact he sits up forward, I don't like that role. I feel like we'll just switch it up again next week so that he can play a bit more of that midfield time, because that's where we want to put him through. So yeah, he's a long-term hold for now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wouldn't be jumping on him if you're not an owner. He hasn't done enough to show that you need him, but hold if you did start him. Lafau come back from his internal suspension, scored 72. He looked pretty good. Provided a bit up forward, then had to go into the ruck when Toby Nankervis went down. It was just injuries galore in this game, but yeah, he was okay. It was his first game. I think he's about 148k forward. So yeah, keep an eye on him as a downgrade option next week potentially if he puts together another decent game. Jacob Hopper scored 46. See if he drops enough, and you could go there. But he had a pretty poor game. 26 touches and just I think it was 10 clangers. So if he's keeping Lawler out of the midfield, I'd be very disappointed. And then Sammy Grill Tice just really struggled to get into it early. Played well in the second half. Got involved a little bit more off half back, but yeah, he just struggled early, and his score reflected that. It's no big deal. I still think his job security is great, and the role's really good as well.
Yeah, he definitely provides us some nice dash off that halfback, which I do like. Yeah, he'll be fine for a while. Just back on Hopper, yeah, the probably only reason why we're touching on him is the fact that he's currently at about that 490k. Yeah, he's at 487k. That was his second game. He's now got a 50 and a 46 in his rolling price, and he still has that role. He just butchered the footy, like you said. Had 26 disposals, can still find the footy, just butchered it so bad. So, yeah, look, keep an eye on Hopper if he drops.
I reckon he could get dropped. I think he should drop him, but
he could.
He was really, really bad. He was really bad. But we'll move across to the Gold Coast Suns, Tice. A few underperforming premiers here. Obviously, track was well justified, but took Miller 116. Keep an eye on this. Played a lot of forward time again, and has done to start the year. So if we can get 4 DPP from Took Miller, we'd love that. Only had the 4 CBAs, so played a lot of half forward, which is really, really nice, even with track going down at around half time. So he wasn't really favoured to go in there, which is good. Keep an eye there. Don't need to jump on him early, but hopefully he does get that 4 DPP. Noah Anderson, 96, with his history against Gold Coast, against Richmond. Sort of hoping for a little bit more there. A lot of people trust him with the VC of the C. I know you did, but 96, you won't hate it from a premium, but hoping for a captaincy score there. Christian Matraka, 86. Yeah, again, didn't play heaps of the game. Had 55% time on ground with that injury in the third quarter. So, we'll wait for more news there, but it's sounding like a trade at this stage. Charlie Ballard, Tice, made his first game from an ACL injury about this time last year. So I think he spent about a year on the sidelines, came back, had 16 touches, 8 marks, scored 72. He's just over 200k as a defender only. He's one that I'm heavily watching not next week, but the week after. He's got the bye this week, but I know he's an inflated price, but I think I think you can make good cash for us and be a good on-field option.
Yeah, he's got that job security for sure. He's a key for that Gold Coast side. And yeah, just showed first game back in a year and dropped to 72 is massive. He's only going to build on that. And we saw it in different spurts last year, dropping 90s to 100s just all the time. So really do like what I'm seeing there. Just keep an eye on him as a downgrade option. Zeke Euland sadly only dropped to 55. Hoping people jumped off him last week. If you didn't, it's probably just jump off for now. Like, yes, he's going to be a good player. We're not seeing enough to justify him taking up a spot of cash generation, especially at 200k, when you could be having someone else at that 120k range or even 100k range. That is going to do a better job from what we've seen so far. So he's probably a trade. And then Leo Lombard is another one in terms of cash generation. Only dropped to 20. Are we now worried in this pick?
A little bit. I wouldn't be like jumping to trade him. I still think the job security is pretty nice, and just the scoring potential is not really there. So he can warm a few benches for us. The break even is going to be a big concern with that 20 in the system now, but I think we just got bigger issues at the moment. Hopefully he can keep his spot, make a little bit more cash, but we'll move him on when the time's right and when there's an option there to trade him down to. I wouldn't be desperate to move him on now, but it is a little bit worrying that he does have those 20 scores in his system. I think it well and truly just locks him out of on-field options. So I wouldn't even be looking at bringing him on the field unless you need to in a buy round. I'll be locking him away on our bench. Jump across to the twilight game on Saturday, ties for the Giants and the Saints, and headlining the Giants scoring again was Lockie Ash. Just looked really good, like I mentioned in my champs. I think I've seen enough that he sort of has had that baton passed to him by Lockie Whitfield, like you predicted in the preseason, and I do see him having to be in a lot of people's end side. I think he's a really top liner.
Yeah, I'm very jealous that you ended up starting him, especially after that opening round score. We just know how good he is, and he's shown that in the past 2 weeks, just being huge. All the play goes through him for GWS to push forward and provide a really nice attack. So yeah, 39 disposals, clearly looking for him. Took 3 kick-ins. Just a great scoring option, and he's one that I'm trying to fit into my side at some point in the near future. Clayton Oliver, 117 here, Das. Still has that role that we saw, in the past 2 games. Definitely was a better user of the footy this week, finding it 33 times as well. Is he now one? If you've missed the boat, have you missed the boat now on jumping on Clary, or do we need to jump on Clary?
I think if you started him, like, you love it. I don't think you need to jump on him. He showed last week he still isn't that like consistent performer that you want. But he's playing good footy, so he can turn those 33 touch games into a nice 117 in the losing side. You'll take it. So I don't think you'll be desperate to bring him in, but I do like the option.
Yeah, he'll go up a little bit in price, being 500k on the dot. He'll go up about 10k, and next week we'll have a nice. He's still got the 69 in his cycle, so he'll probably have a break even around that 100 mark. Then the week after, if he scores a 98 like it's projected here, he'll have a break even in the 70s. So you can still afford to wait till after his bye, because the next game against Collingwood's right before their bye. So if you are set on grabbing Clary, I'd maybe just wait after the bye in round 4, and you won't lose too much cash out there. Stephen Cornelio dropped 102. Had a better role this week. Was one of the main CBA attendances, one of the main midfielders this week, and if you did hold him through last week, it's now been a good play if this role sticks. I think this, to me, actually has screamed a decent option now. I don't know. What do you think, Das?
I need to see his price. He obviously had the big game in round 0, and he's going to go up in price now after that 100. He scored poorly last week, but I wouldn't be. I think if he's going to be playing off half forward, if I knew that role was locked away in the midfield, I'd be maybe tempted, but nah, it's not for me. Yeah. It looks like he sort of took maybe more of Toby Green's. Toby Green's dropped off a little bit. It's not for me, but I don't mind it. If you've started there and you held him, well, that's huge because he repaid the faith in full there. Lockie Whitfield ties 96. I wouldn't be too worried. He's Lockie Whitfield. He'll bounce back and he'll play the huge games. Sort of expecting a little bit more against the Saints, but he'll come good. We know he will. Callahan copped a little bit of attention throughout the game and scored 86. Still managed to get his hands on the footy a fair bit. Had 32 touches. Just didn't use it all that nicely, but you'll take that as sort of a floor score of 86. Phoenix Gothard looked really good in the losing side. Scored 84. Probably the boat sailed there because he has had that one price rise now. But if you did have him or did start him, huge. It's a nice little spike score to kickstart some cash generation. Toby Green, like I said, dropped a little bit in CBA attendances and just scored the 80 with 21 touches. So the output's just not there. The role has been, but he hasn't been able to translate it to SuperCoach scoring. So if you've got him, hold him, but it's not like he's going to be a keeper at the end of the year. And then a popular trading option Tice was Joe Fonte, who scored 77. Looked good again, took a couple really nice intercept marks, but I think that's sort of what you're going to get from Joe Fonte. I wouldn't be expecting the hundreds that we had seen previously. 70s to 80s is what we'll get, and you'll take that, and he'll make a bit of cash in doing so. From the Saints side of things, Messiah bounced back nicely with his 122. Hopefully he can drop a little bit and we can pick him up because we know how good he is. His partner in crime, Jack Sinclair, was also really nice again. So he started the season beautifully with 118. Marcus Windhager was a bit of a left field option for people who wanted to start him as a mid-pricer. He scored 86 after his back-to-back tons to start the year. So he was really good again. And if you've got him, you're reaping the rewards. It's a nice score you can't be angry about. Sam Flanders just did what he's done all year and had a fair bit of footy, but just couldn't convert it. 23 touches, just 81 Supercoach, but new club. Hope he can build into that a little bit more throughout the year. Jack Carroll obviously avoided the axe and hadn't scored 44, so he'll get a nice price rise there. Hopefully he can keep his spot for one more week, get another price rise, and then you can look at flipping him before his buy or in his buy. So fingers crossed for owners. And then Philip Hurst for the last one here, Tice, was on manager minutes. The role was still there. Scored all right for the amount of time that he played, scored 42. If you hold, I wouldn't be concerned. I think it's a good hold, and he'll build at 36% CBAs. But I think that was a lot to do with the time on ground.
Yeah, only had the 57% time on ground. There was only two guys that had less time on ground from him, below him. And that was Caminiti, who got injured in the first couple of minutes, and Taru, who's a bit managed as well, being a younger guy, had 44%. So yeah, look, Philippu's time, like he had a bit of that knock last week. So he's going to slowly come back into this side and really build up his minutes again. So he's definitely a hold at this point. I think you've got bigger issues to sort out this week with all the injury carnage that's going on. Let's move to Saturday night's game, where the Dockers won pretty convincingly over Melbourne here. Top scorer for the Dockers was Shea Bolton, 142. The only reason why we're bringing him up as an option is because he's got the midfield role back. 71% CBAs. I know he hasn't had it consistently this year so far. I mean, it's only been the 2 games. But if he's going to keep this midfield role, because last week he only had 26%, this week he's got 71. If he keeps this midfield role as forward eligible, he is a genuine option as a top 8 forward, wouldn't you say, Das?
If you have this role for the rest of the year, for sure. He's been so damaging in the midfield throughout his whole career, really, at Richmond and at Freo. But he's just too good of a small forward, and coaches know that, and he gets thrown there too often. He's obviously the one that replaced Hayden Young in there, and if Hayden Young's back in 1-2 weeks' time, he could just go straight back forward. So, and Murphy Reed's CBAs took a little bit of a hit as well, so I wouldn't. Yeah, I know we're differing here. I'm not sold on Shea Bolton.
Yeah, look, he can go missing in games as well, which is a bit frustrating. But if that midfield role's there, that's all that I'm buying for. I see him as a genuine top 8 forward. I'm just trying to get his price up at the moment. He's 441k. I'd be happy to wait, even if he gets up to that 500k, as long as I am guaranteed that he's guaranteed to be a midfielder. Like you said, Hayden Young has gone out, and it's only a couple of weeks. Does he lose that role when Hayden Young comes back? At this point, you're probably speculating yes. So I'm probably waiting until Young's back, but just keep an eye on Bolton if that role persists. Andy Brayshaw, 122. Massive bounce back game for your side, Das. You started Andy Brayshaw, one of the ones that dropped the 47 last week, so you'd be very happy with this. But I think this was just inevitable to happen. He loves playing at Optus, and just running over the Ds there. I think he was always going to bounce back this week. Jordan Clark, 119, another guy that bounced back after a 75 last week. He could have been on the chopping block for me if he didn't bounce back, but he didn't. He only took 2 kick-ins, but was a lot cleaner by foot as well, and finding the pill 25 times. It's nice. Luke Jackson, 113. He's definitely a great option this year. Attending just under half of the ruck contests. So he's sort of doing that 50, maybe 55, 45% ruck split with Sean Darcy. I don't mind if he's playing ruck or not because he plays his own ball after that. So, yeah, he tended a lot of centre bounces as well. He was the third highest for Freo altogether. So, that's always good to see. So you'd be happy as an owner. Murphy Reed, 95. But as you mentioned before, Das, CBAs are down. Do you have to see the midfield role increase to be able to select him?
Yeah, I wouldn't be picking him as a small forward. I was kind of half tempted after the start of the year where he had a few more CBAs, but yeah, just the 4 on the weekend, 13%. I don't want him as that general forward. I know he played well as well, scored 95, but it was against Melbourne in a pretty big win. So yeah, I want the midfield time if I'm going to be picking him.
Yeah, that's fair. I do agree with that. He is very classy of a player, though, so could be one we might have to jump on anyway if we don't get any DPP changes come round 6 and stuff. So we'll see for that one. Sherry, I think is the way you say it. Yeah, not Tristan. The debutant for Freo dropped to 73. Looked pretty good. Found the pill 20 times. Looked really quick as well. So 16 handballs is he's very handball happy. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on him as a downgrade option. And then Caleb Sarong, 68. Definitely the opposite end from last week. We saw 150. Looks like he got tagged in this game. What can you tell us here, Das?
Yeah, definitely got tagged. Cole Tholstrup was with him pretty much the whole day. It sucks for runners, but I think the biggest learning from here is that it looks like Tholstrup will tag. He was deployed last week against Naz, and then deployed again against Sarong yesterday. So yeah, keep an eye on that, and it's something we need to take into our calculations. I think he's got Carlton this week, so Sam Walsh owners, could that be you? Could it be Cripps? Who knows? But
Yeah,
he has been used and has been used well to start the year.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely worried with the Tholstrup tag. But yeah, sorry, just back on Chris Sherry. One thing I did forget to mention, he's 99k, eligible as a mid forward as well. So he could be a great option for us come next week. You just want to see that again. I wouldn't be going early on him just yet as well because it was his debut
No,
game.
and hope he keeps his spot with Hayden Young as well.
Yeah, yeah. So he could easily go out with Hayden Young coming back. So, but we might not even know that. So wait and see as much as you can on him. Max Gorn, when we head to the Melbourne side of things, dropped to 141. He just can't slow down. I think every year we say, oh, he's getting too old now. He might drop off a little bit. He's just not. This guy could easily be R1 come into the year, can't he?
Yeah, he is playing great footy and he's just willing the D's across the line. So, yeah, the ruck scoring has definitely not been impacted as much as we would have thought, and we'll get to that in the last game as well. But yeah, he was incredible yesterday and against a pretty formidable ruck duo in Luke Jackson and Sean Darcy as well. So, yeah, he's a star and just continues to try and drag Melbourne. So if you're an owner, you're very happy. And like you said, if you're not, we might have to be looking at him to complete our sides. Jack Steele, 110, looked really good. 31 touches, laid 9 tackles. Similar price to Clary. I wouldn't be going there. I don't think he's like a top 10 mid. I don't think he's going to make us much cash. But if you did start him as that point of different option, I think he's repaid you there with that nice score. Ed Langdon, 103. Pickable as a forward mid. Played a really nice game. You just need to see that get a couple nice goals. We need to see that a couple more times before we can consider him. Cozzy scored 86 with 39% centre bounces. We want more. We want him as that midfielder who pushes forward, not a forward who pinch hits in the midfield. So hopefully that can push up in the next coming weeks, and we can see some bigger scores from Cozzy before we can consider trading him in. Trent Rivers,
just on Cozzy,
yeah,
I think he might have been the guy that sort of missed out a little bit with Tholstrup running a really hard tag on Sarong, because someone has to move out of that midfield, and I think Pickett was the one. So I expect his CBAs to go back up. But I do want to see it as not him losing the midfield time. I want him and Steele to be the 1-2 punch for me to then pick Pickett. I think at some point I will be grabbing Pickett, but it's just not at this point in time.
Yeah. it looks like they're gonna deploy Tholstrup a fair bit as well. So if that's going to be a continuing trend, it'll be hard, I think, to pick Hosey. Like you said, you want him to be one of those top dogs. So in the midfield, so fingers crossed he can get that role. Like I said, Trent Rivers copped a hit in the CBA, is just the 10%. So for those hoping he'd break out in the midfield, it looks like they might have gone back and just pushed him back already. So that's disappointing. Xavier Lindsay started slow again. Couldn't get into the game and then had a decent second half, scored 69. I am an owner, started him. He's okay. I'd move him on if I didn't have bigger issues this week. And then Caleb Windsor scored 53. I think he's in a similar boat to Lindsay for owners, Tice. He's lucky that there's bigger issues. I don't think you're desperate to move him on because obviously you're going to move a Petrarca, you're going to move a Rosie, those sort of guys ahead of him. But yeah, he's not setting the world alight.
Yeah, I'd be very annoyed with Windsor. He definitely still has that role, attending 16 of the centre bouncers. So he was third in line for Melbourne, and that's behind one of them being Tholstrup, who was tagging, obviously. So that at the moment, he's the second favoured midfielder, and he's not doing anything with it, which is a bit frustrating. But the role's there, so if you do have him, you can probably hold him and move on the other guys. But let's move to the Sunday games. We'll start with Port thrashing Essendon. Essendon were just never in this game. And it was headlined by Jason Horne-Francis. 147 was just astronomical. Kicked 3 goals early in the first quarter. And looks like he attended a fair few centre bounces as well. It looks like it might be a 50% midfield time. And then the rest up forward. Could get that forward eligibility. Would you pick Horne-Francis firstly as a mid or as a forward eligible?
As a forward, he's a long-term mid for Port, right? So like he had an injury interrupted preseason, and I think they played him forward last week to sort of ease him into it. And they had plans of doing that today. I think he was playing majority forward in the first half, and then had to replace Rosie, who had majority in the midfield in the first half. So he went in the midfield in the second half and looked good again. 511k. He scored a 48 in round 1, so you know that he can drop some poor scores. Added 100 onto that this week, but yeah, I want to see it. I don't think he's a top line midfielder. He could finish as a top 6, top 8 forward if he gets the DPP. So definitely one to watch. Zach Butters, 135. He was really good, as you mentioned in your champs. Just sort of carried Port, and one that we can trust as a captain again after last week. I couldn't put it on him because he burnt me so hard. Josh Watkins, 99k midfielder on the bubble this week. Ty scored 74, had a good role again, and with Connor Rosie, what looks like out for an extended period of time. Had 59% CBAs. Ollie Wines returns, but that was sort of the one like downside to Watkins. It looks like with Rosie's injury, he could keep his spot and keep the role. He could be a rookie that a lot of us lean to this week at that price.
Yeah, the CBAs were very, very interesting for me, especially when he didn't get too much last week. Maybe it was because they were thrashing Essendon and they could afford to see what he does in there, and maybe long term, depending Rosie's injury as well. But like you said, Wines is probably just a straight in for Rosie. And yeah, that role might even stick for Watkins. So I quite like what I see there. It might be a great option for us if you can afford to get to Watkins and need a downgrade option. Todd Marshall dropped to 73. That's the scoring that we want. A great on-field score. Forward eligible, 150k or whatever he started at. Can't actually 147k. So that's some great scores to have in his cycle to boost his cash generation. And then Connor Rosie, 55. We already touched on his injury. Yeah, just keep an eye on the report, but it looks like it's going to be long term. So he's probably put him in your trade plans for now. And then Miles Bergman, 45, just doesn't have that midfield role that we were hoping for. Even with Rosie going down, he didn't even get one a CBA. Got injured a little bit in that last quarter. I didn't look too strenuous. I missed the back end of that game. I don't know if you caught his injury at all.
I don't think he came back on. I could be wrong, but it was very late in the game. Really, really late. So I don't know. We'll see some news. you'd be somewhat hopeful that he gets Rosie's midfield minutes, but I think it will just be Wines and Watkins, and if he's injured, it definitely won't be him. So, yeah, it's disappointing when it was talked about all preseason that he would get that midfield role. It just hasn't eventuated, unfortunately. So, not Supercoach relevant at this point. From an Essendon side of things, there's not heaps. In a grim day like today, Joe Caldwell scored 116. He looked good. Zach Merritt likewise 107. Look, I think you can pretty much bank on Zach Merritt to give you decent scores. So if you traded him in last week for Goulden, I like it. They got dominated today, and he was still serviceable. So if that's his floor, you're happy with that. Archie Roberts bounced back after last week, had 88% time on ground after his, I think it was 54 last week, which owners were up in arms about. So he's back playing, which was really good. Had 26 touches. He didn't attend many CBAs, just the 9, so 26%. So majority of halfback, but you'll take that if you held him after last week. Fingers crossed he can continue to put those performances together for you. Darcy Parish-Tice, just the 67 from 24 touches. You started him, I didn't. I don't know if you caught much of the game, but any alarm bells, or you just sort of take that with the big loss?
Probably the latter there. The fact he still found the footy 24 times, he's very handball heavy, which we have seen and we are seeing right now as well, especially with 16 handballs. But yeah, he's still in that midfield rotation. He had a little bit less this week, but it's not nothing that, to be really worried about in terms of the role. It's just the scoring. Got bigger issues at the moment. We know that Parrish was really, really cheap for his output that he can give at 334k. So I'm still not too worried about it. The role is still there. 67's, not great, but we saw in round 1 that he can still drop the 90s, dropping that 93. So I'm okay with that for now. But Blackiston, 65. This might be alarm bells here. We were pretty hot on this pick because he was meant to have that number 1 ruck, and it just he just can't convert it into a scoring. Like, he still is the number 1 ruck, attending most of the ruck contest. Looks like 70% of the ruck contest went his way. Is it alarm bells now for Blackiston, and do we have to trade him?
Huge alarm bells. He's just not what I want. And I almost got rid of him during the week, but I didn't. Sort of backed in the matchup, and he didn't deliver. 4 free kicks against again. Just hurts his scoring. He looked good in the second half, built into the game a little bit, but it's really tough. It's tough viewing. I think there's just bigger pressing issues, so we'll just have to hold him for another week, it seems. But yeah, just in terms of his upcoming run, he's got like North Melbourne and Tristan Sherry, Western Bulldogs and Tim English, Melbourne and Max Gawn, Gold Coast and Jared Witt, Collingwood and Darcy Cameron. Like, that is probably arguably the 5 best ruckmen in the next 5 games. So there is, heaps there. And I think he'll probably keep his spot in my team for 1 more week, unfortunately. But then we'll probably have to move him on. Dyson Sharp-Tice, 14, got injured late. Well, not even late. I think it was in the 3rd quarter. He just couldn't get his hands on the footy, and then seemed to do a pretty bad injury from what it looked like. So I haven't got any news on it, but we'll keep an eye out throughout the week. But he seems to be a trade at this point.
Yeah, it does look like he might be a trade. That time on ground was pretty poor as well from when we were even viewing the game. And then obviously it's going to be bad. Look even worse come the end of the game. But yeah, he might be a move on at this point to keep him as a possible trade option. Let's move to the last game where it was a bit of an upset, to be honest, with West Coast getting over North Melbourne, and North Melbourne, people tipping North Melbourne to be a pretty good side this year, and yeah, they can't even get over the West Coast. The only guy that actually dropped a ton for West Coast was actually Cooper Duff Tytler in his second AFL game. Dropped 100 here, Das. Looked really, really nice. Kicked a couple of goals, 12 disposals. I don't get how this is at 100. He obviously did some stuff in the pivotal times, especially with the 52 AFL fantasy. But does he become an potential option with the 100 in your cycle?
Yeah, I don't mind it. Like, the 100 in the cycle is huge. That gives you like 2 weeks of good scoring and good price rises. And obviously they've got really good DPP with that ruck forward. I don't mind it. 190k hurts. So that's the downside. And he's not playing North every week is also the downside. So North's defense with no Griffin Lowe, who went down in the first couple of minutes too. So there was pretty much no one back there. Took a couple of really big really big contested marks and went back and kicked the goals. So there's obviously huge upside there with the talent that he has going pick 2 in the draft. But I don't mind it. I think we'll discuss him probably a bit more in length throughout the week as a potential rookie option. But yeah, definitely someone that wasn't on my radar going into the week, and the fact that he can pull out that score, I think definitely pushes him up the list, and someone that we'll have to consider going into round 3 before his price does shoot up even more. Devin Robinson, 95 ties again, must-have rookie. If you don't have him, grab him. He is a superstar. Much can be said for Milan Murdoch. He scored 92 again after his 110 on debut last week. I don't think there's any conversation here. Just grab him. He had an unbelievable game again. 99k midfielder. You just have to have him in your team.
Easy. Yeah, he's ready made for AFL already. Playing that high half forward, sort of small forward role. Only had the 16 touches this week, but put 2 goals on the board, and it just is astronomical. Like the fact that he's bargained basement price and put out 110 and a 92 to start the year is the highest averaging West Coast player. I'm pretty sure. Is huge. So he's a
10
for us.
10 tackles is massive. Like that just raises his floor huge as well. So we'll take that. And then I think the job security is just locked away now with the start that he's had to his career. Willem Dersma's, I think, now in the same boat as Cooper Tyler Tice. Put together a couple of good scores. Like no one really went there just due to the price. But put together an 88 today after a 78 in round 1. So the scoring potential's there. And he's a classy footballer. Hit the scoreboard today with a couple of goals. Again, I think we'll have some time to sit on it throughout the week and really look at what rookies we need and which ones we can let through to the keeper. But he's also stormed it in calculations, I think.
Yeah, he's actually in a lot more sides than I thought. As well, I would have said the same thing in terms of he's not in a lot of sides, but he's in 32% of sides. And
yeah, wow.
All of those people will be licking their lips. Like he has started the year on fire, 78 and 88. His cash generation is going to be great. Safe to play on field, and the fact that he's doing that from the wing and having a real impact is really good to see. And yeah, we definitely missed that one, and might be one we have to get. But there's so many players that we need to get this week that we might not be able to, and he's just one that we have to miss. So it's a bit frustrating.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Harley Reid, another guy who people started as that sort of hoping for a breakout. He scored just 76 from 30 touches. So, he was involved in a lot of scraps throughout the game. I don't know if that affected his score. Had 9 clangers. He's getting his hands on the footy. We know his talent, but you're going to need him to convert on those games if he wants to become a genuine SuperCoach option. And then Bo Allen looked really good, I thought, on the eye. He started the game really well. Had 17 touches, scored 58 in the end. He's 152k defender, scored 71 last week. So, most weeks you look at something like that. I just think there's probably better options around him. So, that's probably. I don't think he's one that we'd be looking to trade in. And then the last one from a West Coast point of view is Tom McCarthy. Just the 82 Tice. It looked like he moved back to halfback, didn't have the centre bounce attendances that he had throughout the preseason or at the start of the year either. Would you look at Tom McCarthy as a halfback? We know what he did for us last year.
Yeah, well, all preseason and the back end of last year, he was kind of like the main midfielder for him. Last week he only had 35%, and this week he had none. Like, just 0. As a halfback, we know how good he was. That's the reason why he's coming at that inflated price. But, so, sorry. I prefer it as a halfback. I just think without the experience of AFL footy, that he is better as a halfback for us, as a genuine option, than as a midfielder.
Yeah, I agree. I'd much rather him as a halfback. I wouldn't even look at him as a midfielder. I just need to see him put some scores on the board. I mean, they won today, which they never will. And he barely even put a good score together. So, I want to see that from him. From a North side of things, no other story than Tristan Sherry, scored 199. Yeah, he was the number one captain option that we put out, but he is a star, Tyson. Like, we thought that the new rules would affect him, but apparently not. Had 25 touches, lied 9 tackles, 43 hitouts, 7 clearances, you name it, he did it. Oh my God, it was just a Tristan Sherry performance.
Yeah, we know the numbers that he has against West Coast are just astronomical. You'll see it on our Captain's Quarter post that we put out on Facebook. So that's another reason to go follow the socials. Yeah, it was a bit of a write up there, which helps your captain selections throughout the week. But yeah, he loves playing West Coast. I think like nothing to take away from Cherry because he is clearly a great ruckman and a top 6 ruckman as always, and probably a top 3 or 4 at this rate. But it's this matchup as well. It's Matt Flynn. He gives up so many points. We targeted it a lot in our captain's corner posts last year, and it looks like we're going to be targeting it again, even with the ruck rules that have come into play. He just gives up so many points, and it's just something we have to feast on.
Yeah, for sure. He and look, ruck scoring hasn't seemed to be impacted that much, so definitely something we can target for our captains and our trading options in the future. She scored 124, sort of let a big score through to the keeper, unfortunately. He started really hot. I think he was on 84 or 85 at halftime and then slowed up in the second half, which is disappointing for those who had him captain, like myself, but still a big score nonetheless.
Yeah, well, he needed 124 to win the matchup against us, so you beat me by 1 in the end, which is just great. So that's frustrating for me.
Yeah, well, it's big for me, and I'm very happy. I take it back. I love you, Harry Sheets. Thank you for that. LDU ties 118. He looks incredible. I don't know if you call much of the game, but yeah, he's been one of my guys for a long time. I didn't start with him. He might come into calculations this week. I don't think so, but he looks so good.
Wow. Yeah, you are a big LDU fan, and like, why not? The kid's a gun. He's a freak. And I told you, it's the year that you don't start him. He's going to really break out, and it's clearly showing. 104 last week, and then 118 this week in a loss as well. Just 32 touches, and yeah, it looked unreal. Looked just so good.
Yeah, he looks so good, and if you started him, yeah, you're definitely reaping the rewards. And at 520k, I still think it's a good value option. No buy early, obviously, with North Melbourne not playing round 0. So I don't hate it. I just think that it might be like I'd rather go down Houston this week, for example, just almost 100k cheaper. So it's hard. And then to end things off for North Melbourne, Tyson Ramirez scored well again, 79. Someone you can trust on field, has a nice role. And it's adapted well to AFL level. And then McKercher scored 78. Obviously started really poorly last week, playing a little bit of half forward and through the midfield. Went back today, scored 78. Scored 60 last week. Took majority of the kickouts today. Took 4 of the 9, sorry. So that's huge. It's sort of the role that we wanted, but not the scores that we're hoping for. Probably got another week to look at it if you wanted to. Because of the 2 scores that are in your system. So, yeah, have a look. I still think there's huge upside there. But that sums up that game, Tice, and the weekend. Another long one, but SuperCoach has started, and we'll have some content coming to you this week because, like we mentioned at the top, this is the week you want to get right.
Yeah, definitely. And we might have another special episode this week. We're just sorting out some finer stuff. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be a big episode if it does occur. But yeah, it's a massive week to get right. Everyone should be boosting this week and using 3 trades. If you're not, then you'd have to be number 1 already in SuperCoach and not have Rosie, Petrarca, all those kind of players. So, like everyone needs to be boosting this week. So, just massive.
Yep, and if you don't know who to boost to or who to trade to, come to us. Listen in. We'll have more podcasts coming in. Make sure you liked and subscribed and following along because there's much more to come. So thanks again, Tice. It's been a good episode, and I'll speak to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dust.
Thanks, Tice.